I hope everyone's having a great afternoon. I think if we take one common takeaway from all the sessions we've had, it's that the impact of AI in governance and in governments is unquestionable at this point. So it's not a question of if we use AI, it's how do we build reliable AI in public services. And but the challenge here is every AI system we deploy in e-governance asks citizens to trust a new actor. So how to build trustworthy AI systems is one of the key parts of the puzzle of building effective AI in e-governance solutions. And we have three exceptional panelists from what I would call three key dimensions of e-governance technology. We have Ville, who is the CEO of Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, who famously develop and maintain X-Road, which is a government data exchange highway that connects all government data in Estonia, in the public and private sector, and in many other countries too. And he is also in the United Nations and European Commission advisory boards advising global leaders on data interoperability and digital public infrastructure. We have Markko Liutkevičius, Head of AI and Innovation Unit at RIA, which is the Information Systems Authority of Estonia, who also received his PhD recently and who was previously working as Chief Information Officer and Chief Information Security Officer in the Estonian Defense Forces and the Estonian Defense League. And we have Peeter Smitt, Managing Director and Head of Defense at Nortal. Nortal has built more than 40% of Estonia's digital public infrastructure and is a global leader in digitalizing governments and has been a source of inspiration for Rootcode and Rootcode AI as well. And they recently became a NATO-approved supplier too. All right, now going into the questions. Markko, my first question is to you. What does trustworthy AI actually mean to RIA when you're developing AI solutions on a government scale?
Thank you. This is microphone check first. Oh, it works. Great. Thank you for the question. Actually, when we talk about AI, I always like to broaden the question when we first try to define trustworthiness. What actually is AI first? And for me, I found a very simple definition while doing the PhD and actually looking into public sector as a whole when you want to implement AI in there. For me, AI is actually the activity devoted to making machines intelligent. And what is intelligence? Intelligence is quality that enables an entity to function in its environment appropriately and with foresight. So in that sense, when we talk about generative AI, it can actually at least pretend that it's functioning appropriately in its environment, but there is no foresight. So what is foresight? Foresight is actually thinking ahead before you suggest something. Let's say a person is unemployed and AI is suggesting a training for him or her. What is the future outlook in that specific job market? You have to be guided by that before you suggest the training the unemployed person has to take. Otherwise, it's a mismatch automatically. So when we talk about trustworthy AI, we should actually very closely take a look at the foresight part, because typically when you build a chatbot, person asks what is the situation right now, not what the legal act of 1990 was back then. It's easy to solve with Gen AI a chatbot functionality, but it's much more difficult to suggest next training or a job for the person who might look something else, or the market outlook is different. So in RIA today, while we have quite successfully built the first chatbot, and first customer using the LLM chatbot is very satisfied. Our first rule of being a trustworthy AI solution is not to lie to that person who is asking. That's the first task. Don't lie. Better say you don't know, then you're okay.
Understood. And I think you also made a very interesting point. There are also a lot of use cases that are outside of Gen AI as well, which require a lot of training and data. And that's where having a clear data strategy and set of data sets is important, even on a government scale. And that brings me to your question, Ville. I think X-Road is one of the most advanced and predominant data exchange platform in the world. How important is X-Road for building trustworthy AI for governments?
Yeah, I would say it's not about X-Road, but what I'm witnessing happening in Europe and also globally is that many public digital services are built business case or domain specific, which means that many of the features are actually embedded in the data exchange layer of the architecture. And if we think about the use of new technologies, use of AI, anything, the more you are embedding business processes into the data exchange process, the more complicated it will become to change it. So having data exchange, any kind of digital public infrastructure, be it X-Road or anything else, as a modular component of the digital government stack is, in my opinion, beneficial for building overall anything in the digital public services or infrastructure. And if we think about what the AI needs, of course it needs data. So what X-Road provides, and especially starting from its next version, which is by the way launched on 23rd October, it will be X-Road 8 Spaceship, which is for the first time providing a solid data space infrastructure together with the X-Road's features we have witnessed so far. So having data space standards implemented with X-Road means that we have increased interoperability of the data sharing ecosystem participants available. So any X-Road user organization will have a technical ability to connect by using their access points component to any other data space or data ecosystem. And that means when we really start building European and global data spaces, that's a way for actually feeding AI. So that's how I would call it.
My next question to you, Peter, is you with Nortal, you've been building government technology for decades. Looking back, in your experience, what would you say as the most important lesson you've learned about building AI for public services?
I don't think that AI has been around for public services for decades, but what Lucas was saying before, that when you take this level 1 or 2, basically the rule-based AI, I think that has been quite straightforward because you don't need to change the business process as much. You take the same steps, the steps just kind of go quicker and faster. Now when you take the generative AI, which goes to the next layer, I do believe that it does require quite a bit of a rethinking how the entire process works. Like just simple example, if you look at the public procurement right now, leaving all the nice words aside, buyer side is using a lot of generative AI to write the scope of work, seller side is using a lot of AI to write the response, then the evaluation probably also quite a bit of a generative AI is involved there. Meanwhile, there is some reason we format the output of AI into PDF document, upload it to the procurement portal, download it from there. Maybe all that dance is not really necessary if everybody is using generative AI. Maybe there's a better way to do it. I don't know what is the better way, but it's just an example that the way how the processes are organized and done probably needs to change quite a bit in order to actually get a true value out of a generative AI.
And coming back to Markko, I think that nicely connects with my next question. The goal of Bureaucrat is this idea of a chatbot a global government chatbot, specific to Estonia, that covers all services provided by the government that can help you with everything from police reports to tax questions, right? What is the hardest part of building something of that scale?
Hardest part? Well, actually, Paula's presentation gave out how we actually came to light with 1 year piloting the large language model pilot. We had a long learning curve to actually have a production grade LLM solution with Bureaucrat. So one side, the hardest part is actually getting the best experts on board who understand what you want to do, how to use that technology, and also take into consideration the security part, which in AI world is totally non-existent in terms of practice. Well, 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, Estonia understood that when we have a new portal or new e-service, we have to invest at least 10% in that to the security part for penetration testing. Today, if we ask, like, okay, we are creating this nice AI service, please come and test it. They don't actually, there is no framework exactly in place to test it, to make sure that we are actually ready to go live with it. There are so many different risks associated with that, but I guess I could go on about the hardest parts, because one part is actually managing expectations of the whole society. Like when Bureaucrat was born 5 years ago, then everyone actually was advertised that you can buy plane tickets and get married with it, right? But actually the technology wasn't there then. The technology came 3 years ago, and 1.5 years ago came the Estonian model in private sector that could actually speak Estonian. So in that sense, I guess we are on the right track, and managing expectations is something we have to be very careful with, because we have to explain to our own managers in RIA, we have to explain to the citizens, we have to explain to the customers who are using Bureaucrat. And they all have to somehow understand where we are with all this kind of social developments in terms of AI, what can be done today, where are the legal, whatever, restrictions, and also coming back to the experts who can actually help us to do wonderful things. It's like very complex and hard thing to do, but we are very positive and continue doing until we succeed.
Yeah, I think regulating expectations is one of the key aspects of building AI, so that the users have the right expectations when they start using the products. Ville, from your perspective, when it comes to challenges, you're on the UN Advisory Board for Digital Public Infrastructure. When we talk about trustworthy AI in the public sector, on a global scale, what are the challenges you see?
Yes, so I've been part of a couple of groups working on the digital public infrastructure safeguards for the UN. And during the time when we started drafting those safeguards, we actually learned that it's not only about a specific area, but we should actually look into the digital services as a whole. So if we think about the role of AI, of course, we can and we should discuss it separately. But for the guidelines for building digital services, I think it's more a topic of considering the whole process, who are involved, who are all the stakeholders, which are the areas of the infrastructure we need to consider. So I don't see it as an AI topic only. And I think that's what can make it also pretty complex, because those are projects which are multi-stakeholder. The different building blocks of digital services come from even different organizations. So when we think about anything like DPI safeguards and how we can make it sustainable infrastructure, well, it's a multi-stakeholder work. And I think AI as an area needs special attention. That's why we have these guys here. But I mean, it's a thing that cannot be left alone, or it cannot be separated from the rest of building digital services.
And then that also brings me to the next question, which is common for all three of you. So please feel free to pitch in and answer. I think one of the key strategic decisions by Estonia in the early 90s was extreme focus in technology education. And that sort of continued towards the early 2000s as well. And that sort of led to current Estonia's dominance in digitalization and government digitalization. How do you see the importance of AI education to sort of build the next generation of AI-ready society for Estonia from your different perspectives?
I can start maybe. That I think it's one thing that has made things easier in Estonia is that the overall digital literacy is quite high. So if you talk about ideas, what can be done, how it can be done, it's a much easier discussion because you don't need to explain the alphabet all the time. In order to stay on that level, so the next generation who comes there, they need to have the same level of digital literacy or higher. And digital literacy is getting wider, the alphabet is getting higher, wider. So them understanding what AI is, what it's not, how it could be used, how it cannot be used, in order to keep up the speed that we have, it's extremely important.
So adding to the question, another question maybe. Since we have like a huge, let's say, expectation creator from outside of Europe, and actually the big tech is leading the expectations of what people will see in the future as services, then the question today in the public sector is actually, should we do something about it to align what the outlook of a service is in terms of the LLM using, feeling, talking with it? Should we do something to at least align with the same developments and try to be in combination like valuable for the citizen eventually? Or should we continue innovating in a similar incremental ways as we have done before generative AI age, and hope that people will come and use these services under the hoods while logging into portals and these mobile apps that you have to get everyone separately for doing specific tasks? So it's a question I'm like struggling myself today, and I guess every country should think about it today.
Yeah, listening to all the experience from Estonia, well, as a Finn, I have a privilege to comment it a bit from outside now, but yeah, I really agree that Estonia has done a lot, and especially in terms of how the education in Estonia has been supporting digitalization. Overall in Europe, I have been a bit concerned to see that we have sometimes, well, we can recognize a generation of young people who can tap a screen, but they cannot tap a keyboard. And that's something what makes me worry, and to think about, do we need more people capable of coding in the future, or is it a thing which is going to be solved, for example, by low-code AI, whatever, that is it going nicely, or should be we actually worried? I really don't have an answer to that, but that's one thing I've been thinking about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we can shift to the next slide as well. Yeah, this one. So if the audience, if you have any questions, please feel to scan the QR, and we'll be opening for questions after the session ends. My next question to you, Markko, is RIA is an organization that works with a lot of partners, and you mentioned this in your previous answer as well. So you have this ecosystem of universities, technology consulting firms like Rootcode, and startups working with you. How important is this ecosystem to your success?
I can give you a very long answer, but it has been 1.5 years since I've been working in RIA, and since I came out from academia directly to RIA, then the first thing I said in a first conference I was invited was that academia has to do more collaboration with public sector. This is a struggle I've seen actually solved in Denmark, for example, where students are with their groups involved in handling real-time projects problems as problem-based learning methodology. So the things I tried to do, at least in our team, is to involve as many different scale students from bachelor to PhD. And since I've gone through all these levels, I can basically already predict or have a foresight what we can gain from these groups with specific grade. Today we have one PhD student specifically working on the agentic state vision, and it aligns with his PhD thesis, so it's a win-win for us. In terms of other stakeholders, as Paula mentioned, the 1 year period to launch first production chatbot with LLM went thanks to Microsoft support, where they basically for free helped us to make some very small detailed configurations with their Azure environment that finally started working well. And I guess my product owners, which both of them are here, are very good at finding the best companies to help us to innovate as quickly as possible. So in that sense, we have found partners who see the value of open source, who see the value of actually getting things done with AI, and who are willing to go a step further from what is written on the procurement maybe like requirement, because it's sometimes very hard to get these types of developers on board, and since before AI, there was a statistics that around 70% of IT projects fail. Today we saw a slide where 95% of Gen AI startups fail. So it's really like almost like being a doctor and surgeon to get a AI project going well today. And that's why we need this kind of ecosystem around us as well.
Yes, exactly. And I think even from our experience working with RIA, the hardest part of the entire solution becomes nailing those first early use cases and the architecture, right? All right. Peter, now Nortal has been working in defense a lot, and you are heading Nortal's defense division. What is your advice for young technology companies or young technology individuals and enthusiasts who want to build startups focusing on the European defense sector?
I think the defense has been sliced and diced many different ways, but the one that I like the most is basically you have a tactical level, operational level, strategic level, political level. And I think it's very important for the startups to understand in which level they want to play, because go to market, what you present, how you present, to whom you present, where's the money, how to access that money is very different on these different levels. So if you kind of try to flip-flop between these levels, it's not going to happen. I think secondly, the domain expertise is a key there. Unfortunately, in Europe, the defense hasn't been exactly the popular topic over the past 20 years. So there is a lot of talent missing in defense. So finding the people who are talented and who have a domain knowledge and who are eager to do something, it's not that easy. So to finding that part is difficult. And in European defense, patience, it takes time. If somebody thinks the public sector is slow, then try defense.
All right. Ville, so NIIS, it's the organization itself has a unique model. It's a multi-country organization jointly governing something as critical as X-Road. How does that, and it's completely open source as well. So how does this collaborative governance model and being open contribute to trustworthiness?
Yeah, I think our operating model is very interesting because we currently have 8 governments working with us and very different by the size of the countries. I mean, the biggest one with us is Ukraine. The smallest one with us is the Åland Islands as autonomous part of Finland. So it's a big difference between our members and stakeholders, but still many of the aspects related to digital public infrastructure or digital services are quite much the same. It doesn't make a big difference, finally, if we talk about Ukraine or we talk about the Faroe Islands, but they all provide the services the same way. And they all have something to learn from each other. So the model how we operate is that our members are fully funding us, we are organizing public procurements, and we are developing jointly open source solutions to be used by our members and anyone else who is willing to adapt those, like X-Road.
Mm-hmm. And coming back to Markko, given the current or everything that you've done with RIA, and what is RIA's strategic vision for AI-powered e-governance, let's say over the next 5 years? Luca spoke a bit about the whole agentic ideology, but what's RIA's vision in transformation through AI?
Well, I mentioned managing expectations is very important, especially because my team is sitting in the back row there and here. Because if I overpromise, then they will be angry at me, right? So let me just let's go to the AI agents part first. I like to define things. I haven't found a good definition for AI agent, so I won't talk about AI agent in that specific as AI. Maybe I understand better, maybe. But agentic state, let's say we want to reach it. Definitely, it's a good idea. And to start with, we have, I guess, what I understand, at least for getting somewhere with agentic state, the first rule is to have a foundation. Do we have a foundation, right? Do we have X-Road? Yes. Do we have e-identity? Great. 2 things done. Do we have a platform where we can actually practice decentralized AI? Great. It's Bureaucrat. Bureaucrat is decentralized AI network. That's what we are doing today. Don't mind that it's only chatbots today. We can actually start building up on this intelligence part, which I mentioned before, is the foresight. We are reaching the foresight when the models are better. So we are sort of monitoring what is up there and try to implement parts that are actually in practical means working. So this is what we are doing daily to see what has someone done and so on. And but still, if you ask about 5 years, I say for us, agentic state is like a town that doesn't exist, but we know the direction, but there is no highway to go there. It's like step by step. We know actually the first 4 kilometers. First kilometer is done. It's the chatbots and the foundation. And the network will be by the end of this year. This is the first stage. And by the 4th stage, we will have personalized AI assistants working for the citizen. What are the next steps to get to the agentic state? I don't know. My team doesn't know. But we are pretty sure we are on the right track to get there. So that's what we see. Will it take 5 years? Will it take 4 or 6? We just are moving at the moment.
And given the pace of how AI evolves as well, it's very hard to say anything definite.
Actually, I wanted to answer this question with the first sentence, that assuming that quantum computing doesn't ruin it all, right?
Exactly. All right, and Peter, from a different perspective, I think as technology firms, I think we build products and you do the same as well. How do you see the productivity implication of AI within the workforce? Have you seen major productivity gains due to AI in Nortal?
Short answer is yes. The longer answer is that it's very difficult to measure, and our current the best guess is that depending on a project, depending on a role, the productivity gain is something between 10 to 60%. The challenge is there actually what keeping the productivity gain back comes from the regulatory hurdles. Because whenever you want to use generative AI to speed up the development, you probably need to send quite a bit of data to AI, which is hosted who knows where. If that's allowed, not allowed, that's a legal question. Usually that takes a lot of time in legal departments to figure out, and sometimes they even don't figure out. So that is quite a big stopper. And also what we have seen from our experience, that adoption curve for our own people to understand what AI is, accept the new reality, and then flourish in the new reality, it's not a 2-week journey. It takes longer.
And I think from our experience, it's the same as well. It's more of a lot of context engineering around these tools to make sure they have the right context, instead of saying, okay, fix this. Yeah. A common question to all three of you. How do you see the importance of AI as a strategic asset in European defense and in the defense sector as a whole?
I was asked in a television show once, what is the worst thing that AI can do? Is actually, my answer is to kill a person, right? So in that sense, I don't like in defense sector AI, but without doing anything, the situation in EU will definitely get worse. So in that sense, of course, we have to try to pursue innovation in that sector and get against the worst kind of disease we have in current world. So yeah, I don't know if I even answered your question, but it was something I said, right?
Maybe I start a bit further away. Is that, the best fight is the fight that didn't happen. So one way to achieve that is that we all live in a perfect harmony, hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Nobody knows how to achieve that. The second best option is to have a strong enough deterrence, a defensive posture, that you will not be attacked. Now, if looking at the battle rhythms, how fast they are beyond human cognition. Just imagine a scenario that there are 100 drones flying towards you. You have 2 minutes to decide something. You have 4 or 5 different weapon systems that maybe can take down half of them. Human cannot decide anything meaningful there. In best case scenario, they don't panic and they start shooting randomly. AI can do and probably can deliver better outcomes than humans. Now that takes to the ethics question and human on the loop or human in the loop, which is already a separate topic, but I don't think that without AI we can have any meaningful defensive deterrence. We just cannot.
As my fellow panelists almost cleaned the table, but I have a couple of things left. Well, I think one aspect we should always remember is that when we talk about military or defense technologies and AI in this context, is that if we think about how large portion of our technologies overall come from military defense industries, thinking about how much the United States has invested in that and how those solutions have later become used by anyone almost. So, I mean, the root for many technologies is always in defense. And I'm more worried about how little the European Union is currently investing in development in that field. And so, I mean, it's the way how we think. If we think about the wartime conditions and what bad can happen with AI, that's one aspect. But the other one is that all of this development could bring us some new technologies that can be also used in other times. So it's not only about what we build for fighting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think a lot of the great technologies we use, they all sort of stemmed from the first couple of world wars we had. All right, Ville, you said something interesting early on about the upcoming X-Road 8, I guess named it Spaceship, and its promise to transform X-Road into a data space solution. What is a data space, and why is it important now to take that leap for X-Road?
Yeah, data spaces are a quite recent concept of creating a data sharing framework which is following commonly agreed governance and trust principles. And it's bringing some new interesting aspects to data exchange in solutions like X-Road and otherwise. So previously we have been locking many details, like what kind of protocols we exactly use, what kind of interfaces we use. But with data spaces, the idea is to split it into governance, trust, and data transfer separated. So we have more flexibility in how we actually want to implement data exchange. And the good part is that data spaces involve standards. So right now there is the process of creating international data space standard, which is in an ISO process. And it's co-created between organizations involved in data spaces development. What it means in practice, it means that the users of X-Road or any other system implementing the same standards, they have increased interoperability with each other. But for the future, I think the question is not about an organization level of data interoperability, but it's about how we federate data ecosystems. So having a unified model for the ecosystems, or data spaces like we call it here, brings us also the possibility to develop further data spaces federation standards. And in the ideal state in the future, we would actually have a large number of data spaces around Europe and globally, which can be federated with each other. And again, this type of distributed data sharing in trusted environments is helping us to advance the development of AI and many other things. So data spaces is something unique. For now, it's something everyone discusses, but I recommend to check the ISO standard if you are interested in how it works. And also the Data Spaces Support Center has a very good introduction to data spaces.
All right, so we can move to the a couple of audience questions in the interest of time, but the speakers would be here, so please feel free to talk to them after the event. So the most voted question is, how transparent should governments be about the algorithms and data sets used in their AI systems?
You're looking at me? Yes? Okay. The transparency and explainability, right? It's a major topic. And for that, I see actually very good researchers could come and help and tell us how we can be more transparent. And I actually asked the head of Explainable AI Excellence Center in Tartu, or it's like a consortium of universities in Estonia. I asked if I have a open source chatbot software. Is it explainable? No. Okay, it's not. Fine. Then I did some research myself and sort of verified how much should we focus on the explainability and transparency. And there was a research done in that matter, and someone like basically summarized that the more you try to explain it, the more confusing it gets and the more you have to do it again. So the question is like, do you actually want to implement efficient AI service? And of course, help is needed there for the research to come and tell how to do it. But if we would have to do it ourselves, then we would need at least 3 more extra people on board, for which we don't have salary to pay for based on the budget we have. So in that sense, I think the answer is we have to pay attention, get as much as help as we can, but not make it as a primary goal.
All right. Others, please feel free to pitch in if you have any.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention that the United Nations DPI safeguards, which I already mentioned before, it provides a kind of checklist or a tool for governments to ensure that when building any kind of digital systems, it's possible to ensure that it's built sustainably. And that's one aspect. And the other thing I wanted to add is that, well, while we are thinking about the risks of AI, it's good to remind ourselves of other risks. So when we talk about transparency of AI, let's ask ourselves, how transparent are the rest of the systems? And I think that's something we should always keep in mind.
All right, we'll go for our last question. This is an interesting one. This is for all three of you, of course. Currently, the question goes as, currently the most powerful AI models are trained by countries with very different political and economic systems. How can we ensure that the models adopted by governments are not biased and are used in a fair and responsible way?
Yeah, very difficult question, but I was once discussing it with students from a Harvard group, and one of them asked me what would we do with X-Road if some dictator would like to set it up and use it for his government, and my question was that how can we limit the use of it for public good in the case that the dictator wants to build hospitals? So, I mean, it's a kind of topic that how do we know for what purposes any technologies are finally being used, and it makes it very difficult ethically to consider.
Yeah, well, that topic of how biased the model itself is and who would use it or as it is, like let's say ChatGPT or whoever develops a new model, and let's say a chatbot developer would just put that model in the end to answer any question, then it's of course biased. But the way we build things is that the model only knows the semantic part to put together the answer, and the rest, like sources and the source of truth, is actually coming from the pre-work we do with our customers. If you become a bureaucrat client, we help them to gather sources which will be the truth part, based on which the answers will be put together. So the short name for that is RAG. The long name is Retrieval Augmented Generation. And actually Paula was talking about it also, that we are actually developing, we are using the Azure part of that RAG, but we are developing with very good developers open source RAG as well, which anyone could take and use eventually for the public or private use. So this is actually where we can leave the bias part aside and just let the model make the human and sentence understandable from the sources we give the solution to. So that's how we solved it, at least. And to make sure that the answer is not wrong, you also can add a source to that, like a link in the end of the answer, so the person who receives the answer can go and check the real document behind that answer. For that, we have Carl sitting there, who is fluent in building RAGs and understanding chunking, vectorization, agentic search, and stuff like that.
I think that trying to implement that in a model itself, probably it is not going to happen anyways, because also for the people, if the government clerks goes crazy, it goes crazy. You have checks and balances around that, and that what needs to be implemented. So whatever model you use, whatever output it produces, needs to be somehow validated. And if it goes crazy, you just kill it.
Okay. And then just to, I think, add to all what all three of you said, even in the RAG system that we are working on, there is a whole suite of evals that we use before the model answers anything. And that's exactly where the check and balance comes in. Like, is it so? It's better to say I don't know than to say something wrong or to be manipulated by a user. All right, it was a great discussion. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the audience as well for being very engaging. There are a lot of questions, but the speakers will be around here, so please feel free to ask your questions. Thank you very much.